The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Edge Boost. Bank for better. Sign up today. Use the member code SGPN. Get a free Refs Are Terrorists t-shirt included in the deal. Claim your shirt at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/refs. We're also brought to you by NYA Bets because you can get a $25 free bet on the Belmont by going to nyabets.com/SGPN25, promo code SGPN25. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It is currently Thursday afternoon, June 5th, around 1:40 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm also Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the men's semifinal matches in the French Open. So we're going to break down the two matches taking place on Friday. Should be fun. You have Musetti versus Alcaraz, and then you have Sinner versus Djokovic. Going to break down both those matches in a few minutes. For that, the reminder that you can help support the show by subscribing to YouTube. Remind you to leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. Think we're 3 subscribers away from 1K, I think. So hopefully you can help us get there by the next episode. But point is definitely come a long way on YouTube. So hopefully you can help us get to 1,000 by the start of next episode. Plus, a reminder, podcast is also available on Spotify or Apple if you only want to listen to it on audio platforms, or if the YouTube anti-ad blocking software is annoying you, you can check it out on Spotify or Apple instead. Plus, a reminder, check out the merch store because we do have a lot of great Tennis Gambling Podcast merchandise on the SGPN merch store. We have shirts, we have sweatshirts, we have mugs, different colors, very comfortable, very affordable. Check it out there. Plus, a reminder that we do have a nice contest going on right now because the Stanley Cup final is here, and the Hockey Gambling Podcast is giving away an NHL jersey, a $200 SGPN gift card. Enter for free at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Stanley Cup to enter the free contest. Moving on to the actual recap of the last episode, a reminder of the actual format. We are going to be recapping the lock and dog for the women's semifinal matches, but we are not going to deep dive those matches. We're going to save that for the women's final episode coming out tomorrow. So instead, we're going to talk about the lock and dogs first, no real detail attached to it. Then we'll move on into the recap of the men's quarterfinals before getting into the men's semis taking place on Friday. Starting off with the lock and dog picks for the women's episode, unfortunately not great. Had a heartbreaker push for the lock. We had Swiatek team total over 12 at -130. What an absolute heartbreaker. She is a 4-time French Open champion, 3-time defending French Open champion. We need one game in the entire third set. The only way we lose is a 6-0 for Sabalenka. And Sabalenka got a 6-0. So absolute heartbreaker there. Point is, we had one of the best clay players on the women's side of all time. We needed her to win one game after she won the second set and did not do so. So either way, picked up a push there. What an absolute heartbreaker. It looked like it was going to be free for us. Then unfortunately it wasn't, but either way, picked up a push there. For the dog, picked up a loss with Goff, team total over 12.5 at +104. Thought that Boyce would give more of an effort, and she got destroyed. Good performance by Goff, though. She looked great, but either way, picked up a loss there as Goff did win, but unfortunately too comfortably as she won in straight sets without any 7-5s or 7-6s. So once again, not the best episode for us. That lock, I'd say non-win, is a heartbreaker because we just needed one game. It's all we needed, one damn game in the third set, and she just couldn't do it. That's pretty unfortunate. Even worse if you had the 12.5, because you didn't even pick up the push. You picked up the loss instead. But that sucks. But either way, it is what it is. We'll look for a better episode here for the men's semis taking place on Friday. Moving on, though, to the men's quarterfinal recap. These matches took place, as a reminder, on Tuesday and Wednesday, so just keep that in mind. Now, for the actual matches, starting off with the actual recap of what happened on the Tuesday card, you had Musetti who beat Tiafoe in 4. We called that to a T. Thought Musetti would win in 4 sets. We even called the dog with Musetti winning and both players winning a set, and that got there. So definitely, say the way that we expected. Tiafoe, a classic performance where he looked pretty good early, lost a very competitive set, and then immediately rolled over in the set after as he lost 6-2, was behind 3-0 immediately in the 4th set. It was really never in doubt that Musetti was going to win the match once Tiafoe lost that 3rd set. But either way, nice job by Musetti, who continues to prove that he's a top 5 clay player in the world. And Tiafoe, who had a solid run to the quarters, is still not a threat to actually do anything in the grand scheme of things. And we saw Musetti win pretty comfortably in 4. Then you ended up having the match between Alcaraz and Paul, and that was extremely underwhelming, as Paul, who annoyed me the entire tournament, because I kept fading him with the injury, and he kept winning. Then the one time I stopped actually focusing on his matches, he got destroyed. So Alcaraz killed him. He lost one game in the first 2 sets combined. Third set was closer, as it was a 6-4. But either way, Paul won 5 games in the entire match, and Alcaraz killed him. So nice job there by Alcaraz, who was looking vulnerable for most of the event, dropping sets left and right. But he pieced it all together for the quarters, and he dominated. So nice win there for him. So overall, Alcaraz looked as good as you could probably hope he would look entering the semifinal matchup, and we'll see if he ends up continuing that form against Musetti tomorrow. But either way, nice job by him. As for Paul, you know what? I'm not going to roast him too hard for it. He made it to the quarters. Nobody thought he would. He'd never made the quarters in the French Open before. He battled some injuries, and he was able to get through it. But I'll say as a fan, it was just an awful watch. I got nothing else to say there. It was really bad. But nice job there by Alcaraz, taking care of business. Moving on to the matches that we ended up seeing on Wednesday. This was a pretty interesting slate. You had one very straightforward match, as was expected, because you ended up seeing Bublik get destroyed by Sinner. There was a competitive game and set in there. I mean, you got a 7-5 in it. We actually called that match exactly correctly. We called the Sinner team total over. We called Bublik team total under. We called the under in the match. And we called Sinner in straight sets. So we got everything right for that match. Bublik made one competitive set, and besides that, he got killed, which was really not that big of a surprise. Bublik, unfortunately, though, sabotaged the dog play because we ended up having the no 6-0 in the match, and he eventually got 6-0'd in the third set. But yeah, it still makes me laugh how some people tried to convince themselves Bublik had a chance. He had no chance at all. Sinner killed him, and he had a break point there in the second set where Bublik actually maybe had a chance to steal the second set. Couldn't convert. Sinner had a nice volley there at the net, and at that point, Bublik was out of gas, and he just got destroyed. So either way, nice job by Sinner. It was a buy, as far as I'm concerned, minus 5,000. It was pretty, once again, funny seeing all the people argue that Bublik had a chance to make it interesting. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. And I think my favorite part, by the way, was after the match was over. A reminder, people before the match were having these pipe dreams about, can you imagine Bublik winning a Grand Slam title? And then Bublik in the post-match press conference says, I don't plan on ever winning a Grand Slam. Like, I'm just here for the fun of it. And I feel like, honestly, people were against his approach, saying how you should be trying to view yourself in a higher regard, trying to actually accomplish the, I'd say, peak of the sport, which is a Grand Slam title. But Bublik has a pretty realistic perspective on life. He knows that he's an unorthodox player who's gotten very far in his career being a consistent top 50 guy. And the fact is, he said he doesn't exactly expect himself to ever win a Grand Slam. He won't. So maybe he listens to the podcast. But the point is, Bublik, I thought, made a very good effort in the French Open. He got killed. But you know what? He won 5 games in a set against Sinner. Good for him. He beat Draper, a top 5, top 10 guy. Good for him. Bublik had no chance. He never had a chance. And thinking that he had a chance was honestly a little bit, I'd say, blind hope associated, because there was no chance in hell he was going to. Ginger's mentioned in the tennis press conferences give a lot more info than other sports. The truth is, it really comes down to which reporters you have asking the questions, because there are a lot of really bad tennis reporters out there that are really asking the dumbest possible questions in pretty much every press conference, and you occasionally get somebody who lashes out accordingly. I saw Musetti lashed out at a reporter for asking him questions about basically Alcaraz destroying him every time. But I feel like tennis does give you a bit more. First of all, unlike other sports, we know that it is a 1v1 type of environment, ignoring doubles for a second. So you do have specific insights from players that are not really available in other sports that are also relying on teammates to contribute, kind of thing. You get that in boxing, you don't really get that in other sports. But the point is, tennis does have very interesting press conferences if the questions are asked properly. There are a lot of really bad reporters out there, though, which can result in some really, I would say, interesting press conference moments. I'll put it that way. But either way, a point is definitely a pretty straightforward quarterfinals round. You had no upsets at all in the entire round, so nothing really that shocking. In fact, once again, Sinner and Alcaraz coasted. I do want to mention the one match full of drama, which was technically not an upset, but it was definitely the match of the round. You saw Zverev, who won the first against Djokovic, and we thought, Joker, I picked to win in 5. I did pick Joker to win it, but we thought Zverev started off fast, and we thought, you know what, maybe he can pull this off. No, he can't. No, he cannot. Joker came back from 1 set down, won the final 3 sets, played extremely solid through the last 3 sets, bunch of drop shots too, and got the job done as he won in 4. Long match, roughly 3 hours and 18 minutes. A classic Zverev loss where Zverev looked like he had an opening potentially in the draw, looked like he had a chance to maybe make it into the semis, and instead completely unraveled in a big spot like we've seen for his entire career. Nothing shocking at all for me. I picked Joker to win. The only concern was going to be durability and stamina, and Joker started to show signs of fatigue in that 4th set, but Zverev basically punted away every free, or I should say every big point opportunity that he had. He had the 40-shot rally on break point in that 4th set, which Joker fought off, that eventually held, and Zverev just could not get the break back. But Joker showcased a lot of heart, a lot of skill, a big reason why he's number 1 all time. He just keeps doing it despite his old age, and he keeps making it into deep Grand Slam runs. Good for him. Got the job done as we predicted. But either way, Zverev, what a horrible loss for Zverev. Like, Jesus Christ, what a horrible loss for Zverev. I understand Joker played well. I get that. But damn, man, the guy's 38 years old. You got to win at some point. You got to try. Like, at some point, you figure accidentally you'd find a way through. And he did in the Australian Open because Joker got injured. That's why he got by. But, yeah, I see Boston correcting me saying we. Yeah, it's fair, pretty much. Point is, I thought Joker was going to win in 4 or 5, so I did not panic after the first set. I'm sure some people did because Zverev actually looked very good. The serve was good. The aggression was on point in the first set. But the common issue was Zverev's play style for his entire career. In these big moments, he will get extremely, extremely passive behind the baseline. And when you are going to be offering really no unique shot selection and no overall risk, you're going to lose the top tier players who are better than you, who are going to take more chances. Joker was the aggressor in most rallies because Zverev wasn't going to do anything. Zverev just stood behind the baseline trying to rally like it was, I don't want to say a practice type of like tune-up rally, but you get what I'm trying to say. There was no variety. There was no aggression. Zverev, I thought, could have come to the net more. He didn't do so. Instead, he kept standing well behind the baseline, allowing Joker to drop shot him to death, and that's what happened. So Zverev wasted another opportunity, and we'll see where he goes from here. But I've said years ago that Zverev's legacy right now is being arguably the best player of all time to never win a Grand Slam. And it does not look like he's close to changing that narrative. I'll put it that way. So a really bad loss for Zverev, a very good win for Joker. If you want to argue against Zverev for the actual, once again, best player to never win a title argument, Nalbandian, you could argue with. I think he's also on a short list there. I think that Zverev's better than Tsonga, for example, if you want to make that argument. But Nalbandian's the common choice for the best player to never win a Grand Slam. You could argue that Rios, if you want to go a little bit back into the 90s, you can make that argument too. But Zverev's resume will definitely be very, very solid besides the Grand Slams. And that's the one issue he has in the resume, and it's mainly because of his psyche. He gets way too passive and way too scared in big moments, and he has never adjusted to it. It's why he loses in these big matches. But either way, point is, nice job by Joker. How much does he have left in the tank? I don't know. That's a great question. On the bright side, there is a day off. The men did not play Thursday, so Joker has a full day of rest to recharge his batteries. So we'll see how he looks physically. It was a grueling match. A great job by him, but we'll see if he has enough left in the tank to challenge Sinner or even maybe win. But we'll talk about that in a second. Anyway, I see a couple of comments here. I see Andrew making a reference to the tweet that I made about these Zverev Dub Club bettors there. I see Ginger saying that it was a 1,000 star lock or a 100-star lock. Yeah, Dub Club people kind of just say stuff and they don't actually bet any of their own plays, so keep that in mind. But I will roast Dub Club bettors all the time because they can inflate the records, just make up random crap, and they charge people for picks. And when they recap the picks, They only mention the plays that win. They don't actually recap the plays that lose. That's how they keep the money train rolling. But the point is, I saw a bunch of people on social media that are selling picks, lock of the year, lock of whatever, picking Zverev to be Joker. And it just makes me laugh. Like, whether or not you like my content, either way, all my picks are free. The point I'm trying to make here is that you can definitely find good content out there for free. I don't recommend paying for picks. And some people just shell out money for experts who give you the worst picks imaginable, and they'll recommend Zverev to win a big match in his career, which just doesn't happen. So that's why I was roasting the Dub Club people. I always do so on Twitter, so keep that in mind. But either way, point is, I did not take Zverev, and Andrew has mentioned that Zverev's 28 now, so at some point you are who you are. Yeah, that's how I feel. It kind of comes down to the premise of whether or not you think people could actually change. Sometimes they can slightly when it comes to their play style. You have some guys that try to change some aspect of their game, but Zverev just seems to revert back to the passive mindset in big points. And I do feel like that always comes back to bite him. He also gets very, I'd say, snippy and aggressive when it comes to post-match interviews with, I'd say, the media, who seem to ask him why he's had certain struggles, etc. And instead of trying to give a good answer, he'll just get very defensive and start yelling at the reporter. So I do think that Zverev has always been, in my opinion, a mentally weak player. And I do feel like you can argue that's the entire era that we've had. Medvedev did win a Grand Slam title. He also had one of the worst choke jobs of all time in a Grand Slam final against Nadal in the Australian Open, and he's not won since. Rune never won one. Zverev never won one. Tsitsipas never won one. Rublev never won one. That entire era you can kind of group together as mentally weak, I'd say, star players. Medvedev did get over the finish line. He's the only one. But I'll tell you right now, I feel like if you wanted to rewind back maybe 5-6 years ago, to that era of all the guys I just mentioned, one Grand Slam title amongst all of them combined would be insanely embarrassing. And I think most of you would think that's just insane to think about because you'd figured that a couple of them would have won at least one. That has not happened because they are all very mentally weak. So keep that in mind. But Zverev once again imploded, and then Joker ended up winning. So nice job by Joker, and we'll see how much he has left in the tank there against Sinner in the semis. Anyway, time to move on into the preview of the semifinal matches taking place on Friday. Before we get into the actual breakdown of those matches, a reminder they're brought to you by our sponsor, EdgeBoost. Get the first ever bank for bettors, ensuring that all your gambling transactions are approved. No usage fees and no minimums. Cash records as well. 100% approval for other deposits. Sign up today. EdgeBoost.bet. Promo code SGPN. And if you sign up this week, you'll get a free Refs or Terrorists t-shirt. Go to sportscampus.com/refs to claim your free shirt. Plus, a reminder, go to Underdog Fantasy because they're going long for the NBA playoffs and the NBA Finals with their extender bonus. Hop in for game one, and the longer the series goes, the bigger the bonus gets. TikTok, you have about 6 hours to capitalize on the bonus before the series actually starts. When you do sign up for your new account, use the promo code SGPN to claim a special back in your first time deposit offer up to 1K in bonus cash on it to promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by NYRA Bets because the Belmont Stakes is coming up at Saratoga. With NYRA Bets, you can bet on it. Sign up today for the $25 free bet plus $200 deposit match bonus with the promo code SGPN25. Whether you're a seasoned bettor or just getting started, NYRA Bets does make it easy for you to jump in on the action. This offer is just for the Belmont Stakes, so don't wait. Join now. Claim your free $25 Belmont bet today. NYRABets.com/SGPN25. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finish recapping what happened in the men's quarterfinals. Time to move on to the semis. For that, though, I have to briefly go backwards, actually, to talk about how we did for the quarter picks for the event. Sinner, we got right at -188. We did have Draper at 750, but Sinner got there. Had Joker and Zverev. Joker did win that one. It was an automatic winner entering the quarterfinals, but Joker plus 250 did get there. Third quarter, we won two. We had Musetti at 225 and Fritz at 650. Musetti got there at 225. For the fourth quarter, you could have hedged with Paul. We did pick Alcaraz to win the quarter, but unfortunately, we did not give that out because it was -400. So we picked two other options at Ruud at 7-1 and Paul at 16-1. You could have hedged on Paul if you wanted to entering the final, but overall, we did get 3 of the 4 quarters right. We got 4 out of 4, but we didn't pick Alcaraz because the price was too big. So you get what I'm trying to say. For bets purposes, we got 3 out of the 4 quarters right. but we did basically predict the entire semifinal matchup. So either way, point is time to move on into the semis here, taking place on Friday. Starting off with the first matchup, you have Alcaraz against Musetti. Now, Alcaraz is a massive favorite, about minus 690, minus 700. For the spread, you have minus 6.5 or minus 7.5, depending on what you want to take for price. 6.5 is minus 138, 7.5 is plus 112 for Alcaraz. For Musetti, though, you have the plus 7.5 at minus 132. The plus 6.5 is at plus 108. For the over-under, I see 33.5 games or 34.5. For the set spread, you have Alcaraz in straight sets at plus 109. Musetti, plus 2.5 sets is minus 140. The over 3.5 sets is actually minus 130. And the under 3.5 sets is available at plus 100. So the question for this one is, do we think Musetti can pull off the upset to start with? No. I think everyone's expecting Alcaraz to win. I think most people are expecting Alcaraz Sinner in the final. I said that was probably going to happen for the tournament because we do have Alcaraz and Sinner to win the event, and we feel pretty good about it at this point. So either way, a point is you're looking at Alcaraz as a massive favorite. Musetti, though, has faced off against Alcaraz a couple of times this season, and it's been we'll say a mixed bag up to this point. So this year, faced off in Monte Carlo, Musetti won the first set in the final. Then he ended up getting injured, and Alcaraz killed him, a 6-1, 6-0. Faced off, though, again in Rome. Alcaraz did win 6-3, 7-6. Musetti was up a break in the second set and punted it, so definitely not ideal. It was actually up a break twice in the second set and fell apart, but lost in a breaker eventually. So the point is Alcaraz is 2-0 this season on clay against Musetti. Lifetime, he is 6-1. The one exception was the Hamburg final a couple years ago in 2022, which Musetti did win in 3. So Alcaraz, once again, is 6-1 lifetime. I'm going to point out that every meeting besides 2 were on clay. So Alcaraz has been very good in the head-to-head. Now, Musetti's path so far has been fine. He's dropped sets frequently over the last couple rounds, but really never in doubt, I'd say. Beat Hoffman in straight sets, beat Galan in straight sets, beat Navone in 4, beat Rune in 4, and beat Tiafoe in 4. Now, I do think Navone is tricky on clay. Rune, we know, can be very solid on clay when his fitness is cooperating. And Tiafoe was, if we're being honest here, a pretty nice draw for Musetti in the quarters. So nice job by him taking care of business. For Alcaraz, he was dropping sets early and often, but then he dominated against Paul. He beat Zeppieri in the first round comfortably, beat Morozin in 4, beat DeZumer in 4, beat Shelton in 4. Probably should have won 5 because Shelton choked away the first set, but still ended up seeing Alcaraz win in 4. And then Alcaraz lost 5 games combined in all 3 sets against Paul. So the question here is, do I think Musetti is actually live to do anything in this match? He's not going to win. I think Alcaraz is going to win. They faced off in the French Open a couple years ago. Alcaraz won in straight sets. Yes, I know that Musetti has gotten better, but I do think that Musetti is not good enough to beat Alcaraz. I just think Sinner and Alcaraz have such a wide gap between themselves and everyone else on tour that I don't really think anybody else has a chance against them, to be honest. I'll mention the Joker match in a second. But Alcaraz looked great. It was his best match of the event by far. He's in good form. Musetti, I do think, has a pretty interesting path to maybe winning a set in this match. It wouldn't shock me if Musetti did a little bit of damage while falling short. For the actual score itself, if Alcaraz won in straight sets, I would really not be surprised. It comes down to what form of Alcaraz you get, because he has been a bit vulnerable in individual sets in the previous couple rounds, and then the Paul match happened, and he was playing like he was in peak form. So if Alcaraz plays nearly as well as he did against Paul, he's winning in straight sets. That's just how I look at it. I think Musetti is a fun player. I think he's very solid on clay. The issue is the deep return position, and I do think the serve is just not good enough, in my opinion. I think Musetti is a decent server. I don't think he's really a great server by any means. I don't think Alcaraz's returning will be too effective, becoming the aggressor. Musetti with the deep return position, we know can be aggressive, way behind the baseline. But I do think because of his return position, he's going to force himself into being defensive in a ton of rallies. We know Musetti's also very fast on the court, but Alcaraz can sprinkle in some drop shots, make life uncomfortable for Musetti. I think that's the word I'll use for this matchup. The word I'll use is uncomfortable as the key word. I think Musetti is not really going to do much to make Alcaraz uncomfortable. I think Alcaraz might lose a set if he ends up hitting a bunch of unforced errors, but I do think Alcaraz will dictate the pace and the tone of most rallies, which does give him the advantage in my opinion. Musetti can be very passive at times. Yes, he can unload and hit a crazy defensive winner when needed. But if he lets Alcaraz dictate all of the points or most of them, he's going to be in trouble. And I see that happening again because that's what's happened in the previous meetings throughout the head-to-head. Give me Alcaraz either in 3 or 4. Alcaraz, though, minus 1.5 sets is minus 280. So the real question is, can Musetti win a set? And I think I'm going to go with the other option instead. I'm going to go with Musetti team total under 15. I think there's a couple of ways to get there for this one. If Musetti actually, you know what? Do I actually want to do that? Because in theory, he could get destroyed in a set, but if he wins a set, you're probably screwed. I don't know if you actually are screwed though, because you can see Musetti win 3 games in the next 3 sets. He'll lose in 4, and you end up getting 15 on the dot. I don't actually mind that. I think that's actually fine. I saw most books at 14. I don't mind 15 flat. I can see a world where Alcaraz does bury Musetti, like 6-1 in a set. That wouldn't shock me either, which can help out the team total. But I do think the team total under for Musetti does give you a couple of paths. If Musetti wins a set, you're not even dead, because Alcaraz can go God mode, win a set 6-1 or 6-2, and suddenly you're back on pace. But I do think that Alcaraz will win. If I had to go with an actual prediction, I'll go with Alcaraz in, you know what? I'll go 3. I think Musetti can win a set, but I just think Alcaraz has his number, and we've seen that over the last couple of meetings. I think he'll get the job done here. Give me Musetti winning maybe 12 games. You get 6-4s throughout, but I think Alcaraz wins. I just think Musetti doesn't really have the, I'd say, attacking mindset to be as aggressive as needed against Alcaraz. And if he ends up being too passive and he gives Alcaraz ample time to load up on both wings, he's going to have problems. I think Alcaraz wins in straight sets. You could argue Musetti maybe takes 1 if you want to go for Alcaraz in 4, but I'll go straight sets here. I think Alcaraz will get the job done pretty comfortably into this one. Moving on to the next matchup, the match of the round, you have Sinner against Djokovic. Now, for this one, Sinner is a big favorite, but not as big as Alcaraz is. Alcaraz is minus 690. You have a Sinner at minus 430, give or take, and you have Joker at plus 337. For the spread, minus 5.5 for Sinner, plus 5.5 for Joker. The over-under is at 36.5. For the actual set spread, Sinner in straight sets is available at about plus 153. Joker to win a set is minus 200. For the 1.5 sets, you have Sinner minus 1.5 sets at minus 215. Joker to win 2 or more sets is plus 164. The over 3.5 sets is minus 155. The under 3.5 sets is a plus 121. So for this one, the head-to-head's been very in favor of Sinner recently. Sinner's actually been dominant in the head-to-head. If you want to include the exhibition in Saudi, Sinner has won 4 straight against Djokovic. And if you want to factor in the clay career meetings, they've actually faced off 1 time on clay, the first ever meeting in Monte Carlo back in 2021. Joker won in straight sets. Means absolutely nothing because Sinner now is number 1 in the world, and that was a long time ago. Now, Joker has had a pretty interesting path so far. He was cruising through a pretty easy path early on. Faced McDonald, faced Mutet. Bit of tricky there. Mutet did have a set point into the third set. Misolic and Nori, so definitely a very easy draw for Joker. Then it ramped up and he beat Zverev in a 4-setter after dropping the first set in 3+ hours. As for Sinner, he has been absolutely coasting. Beat Rinderknech, beat Gasquet, beat Leheshka, beat Rublev, beat Bublik, all in straight sets. Really never in doubt. Bublik, though, did have a break point midway through the second set. Did not convert, and Sinner did eventually win the set. But there was an opening for Sinner to lose a set in the quarterfinals. Now, there were some talking points from the broadcast crew for TNT during that Sinner match against Bublik, talking about how Sinner looked a bit compromised and how he looked injured. I didn't see anything because as soon as the announcer said that, Sinner never dropped the game again. He won the final set in a bagel, so I didn't see anything. You could argue maybe in between points, Sinner was kind of moving around gingerly. Maybe, but I thought he looked fine. He won the final set 6-0, so it didn't look that bad to me, in my opinion. You could argue that it might end up acting up if something happens over the course of this matchup. I think he's fine. He's got a day off as well, like Joker. I think you'll see him look pretty sharp in this one. The thing for Joker, and the reason why I'm a bit skeptical of his chances in this matchup, there was a path for Zverev to take control of rallies, and Joker was able to outlast Zverev in a bunch of long rallies. Sinner, unlike Zverev, will definitely pull the trigger. He'll be aggressive. He'll come forward if needed. And the question is, can Joker handle, in terms of the defense, the firepower that Sinner has? And looking at the last couple of meetings, the answer is no. Now, Clay might help Joker when it comes to buying himself more time to actually get into position. But Sinner's won 4 straight against Joker. He's been really, really good. He's barely been broken in any of these matches that he's recently dropped. I think Sinner is a guy who Joker, in my opinion, can't beat at the stage in his career. You could argue maybe he'll win a set, and if there's an injury issue for Sinner, then maybe the door's open. But Joker played a 3+ hour marathon, has 1 day off, so he should be fine early. But if this goes distance, and if you end up seeing a breaker, and maybe it goes to 4 sets, do I think Joker will have enough left in the tank to beat in a Sinner that right now is playing insane tennis? I think the answer is no. I see Joker, in my opinion, winning a ceiling of 1 set in this one. I think Sinner wins comfortably, in my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the match lives up to the hype. But in reality, I just think Joker does not have the same amount of, I'd say, stamina and the same amount of, I'm trying to think of I'd just say counters. I'll use the word counters because Sinner really has no flaws and he has all the firepower in the world. It's just a bad matchup, in my opinion, for 38-year-old Joker. I'll take Sinner to win this one. If Sinner won in straight sets, I would not be that surprised, honestly, because Sinner, I just think, is on another level compared to other people right now, including Joker. You could argue Alcaraz on the same level as Sinner because Alcaraz has owned him in the head-to-head, and I'll give that point to you. I think Sinner, on an average day, is the best player in the world because of his consistency, and Alcaraz can be quite erratic at times, which causes him to punt sets to Zoomer, to Morozin, to Shelton, etc. But Sinner not dropping a set sounds par for the course because he beats everybody, and the fact is he's very consistent. He hits with power and precision, and I think if he pushes Joker around the court with the firepower he has, it's going to be a rough going for Joker. So for me, I'm going with Sinner. Do I think Joker wins a courtesy set? I think I'm going to say no. For value alone, I think there's value on Sinner in straight sets at plus 153. I hope Joker can make it interesting. I just don't see that happening. I think he won because he played well, don't get me wrong. But the drop shots are not going to be as effective against Sinner, who's going to play closer to the baseline, who's going to be able to showcase the firepower, to be the aggressor in rallies. Joker had all the free time in the world because Zverev would never actually be the aggressor. Sinner's going to. And Sinner, if he forces the issue, should get the upper hand in a ton of rallies. Kind of similar to my breakdown for the Alcaraz and Musetti matchup. I just think that you're going to see the two favorites be the aggressor more often than not, take control, showcase the elite skill set, and win. So if Sinner ends up having an injury act up on him, then Joker maybe has a chance, or maybe he ends up winning 1 set plus. But assuming Sinner's healthy, I think it's a really bad matchup for Joker. So I'm going with chalk here. Pretty straightforward, anticlimactic matches for the Friday card. I'm going Joker to lose in straight sets to Sinner, and I am going to go with Alcaraz to beat, once again, Musetti in straight sets. Maybe you end up getting 4 sets in one of those matches, but I don't see 5 in either of them. Think we'll get the Alcaraz and Sinner final, which we all expected when the tournament began, but that's what I'm going to pick. I'm not going to change my opinion on it. There's a reason why I took Alcaraz and Sinner, and basically nobody else. I took a long shot with, I think it was Ruud at the time, for the event, but I was feeling good about Alcaraz and Sinner. We saw them just face off in Rome, and yes, Alcaraz killed him in the second set of Rome, but Sinner beat everybody handily. He only dropped 1 game to Ruud on clay. The point is Sinner and Alcaraz are so far ahead of everyone else, I can't make a case for anybody else right now. So once again, give me the favorites to get the job done comfortably here in the semis, taking place on Friday. Now it's time for the actual lock and dog picks for the show. Before we get into the actual lock and dog, a reminder they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is Circa Ultimate Fantasy Bowl Giveaway, because Circa Resort and Casino Las Vegas, with the Ultimate Fantasy Bowl experience with a 12-person league in Vegas to draft their teams and be treated like VIPs for their stay. Get a limo ride from the airport, a 5K tab for stadium swim, and a hotel stay for you and your 11 league mates. Also, a reminder, you could always get a 15% off discount for the Circa properties with promo code SGP15. Enter the Ultimate Fantasy Ball contest for free at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/circa. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/CIRCA. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, because you've heard us talk about Rhythm before, but they just dropped a brand new feature, a game-changing feature called Power Trends. They are ad-detected patterns where Rhythm's models have consistently won and have a high ROI. And a reminder that you could also use Power Trends every day, because they're updated every day. Exclusive to Rhythm. No touts, no noise, no just clean data-backed picks. Download the Rhythm app, check out the Power Trends, and start betting smarter, because you know that we're going to be doing so. And if you want to try it out for free for a week, use the link sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RETHMM for your 7-day free trial. We're also brought to you by MyBookie, because MyBookie.ag is the place for every sport. They have the playoffs, they have the NHL playoffs, they have the French Open, they have UFC, they have baseball, you name it. They're also available in a ton of locations. Use crypto for links as payouts. Use the pods when you sign up for a new account. Use the promo code SGPN to get a 100% match up to 1K. Terms and conditions to MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the men's semis taking place on Friday. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. For the lock on this one, by the way, I see a quick question from Sashi on who I think has the edge right now. It's really tricky because I think Sinner's the better player, but in reality, Alcaraz keeps beating him. So I'll go Alcaraz in the final if I had to go for an Alcaraz-Sinner matchup. He's won 4 straight. He beat him in the French Open last year. I think Alcaraz I would have to pick in a final. I'll see what the price is if that's the matchup we get for the final. But if I had to pick somebody right now between them, I would pick Alcaraz, because I've seen him just have Sinner's number time and time again. I think Sinner's the better player, but sometimes matchups are matchups, and some guys just have your number. And Alcaraz right now seems to have Sinner's number. He's the only guy who has Sinner's number right now, but he does. So right now, I would take Alcaraz over Sinner if I had to pick a hypothetical final in the French Open. Anyway, time to move on to the lock and dog picks. For the lock, going to go with a tiebreak prop, actually. I'm going to go with the Alcaraz and Musetti under half a tiebreak at minus 145. Couple reasons why. First reason, this price was great this is on Bet Online. I saw that Bet Rivers had minus 148 if you want to shop around and you don't have access to an offshore. But you're looking at Bet365, which did have the no tiebreak at minus 175. All of 18 sets that Musetti has been in, every single set has not had a breaker. So Musetti right now is having a tournament with no breakers, and I do like the price because of it. And you're also looking at Alcaraz, who's barely been in breakers too. 16 of Alcaraz's 18 sets in the event have not had a breaker as well. Plus, they've also faced off against each other in 18 sets, and 16 of the 18 career sets have not ended in a tiebreak. But I like the price here. You're looking at the most recent meeting in Rome having a breaker. A reminder that Musetti was up a break twice in that set. So you got to a breaker because of 4 breaks in the same set. I don't see both guys holding serve 12 times in a row combined. That's not going to happen. I see a bunch of breakpoint chances. I see a lot of chaos in sets, and I do think Alcaraz might win comfortably, which will limit the number of sets for this matchup. But I like the price here. Once again, Musetti's had 0 tiebreaks the entire tournament. Alcaraz only had 2 in 18 sets, and you've only seen 2 in the 18 career sets in the head-to-head and then breakers. So I like the value here at minus 145. Might seem juicy, but I understand why it is priced this way. I think it should be priced higher, in my opinion. I think that minus 160, minus 170 sounds right. But once again, 0 breakers in Musetti's entire tournament, and I can find the same bet, at minus 145. I'll take that as my lock. Give me Alcaraz in a couple of 6-4s to move on into the final. For my dog, though, I am going to go with a parlay, actually. I'm going to ignore the Sinner straight sets angle, because I think Joker can win a set, and I think that's definitely possible. I would pick Sinner in straight sets if I had to go for the exact outcome, but there is definitely a path for Joker to win a set, so I'm not going to bother. Instead, I'm going to go with a parlay. Give me Alcaraz minus 1.5 sets, parlayed with Sinner minus 1.5 sets. And you can find that at plus 107 on Bet Rivers. So Alcaraz has been great in the head-to-head against Musetti. He's won 6 of the 7 head-to-head meetings. On top of that, Alcaraz played his best match of the tournament last round, beat Paul, only dropping 5 games. So even though he was dropping sets in the previous few rounds, he found his form completely in the last round, and his A game is much better than Musetti's A game. Now you're looking at Sinner, by comparison, who has not dropped a set yet in the entire tournament. Joker, who has been really bad in the head-to-head against Sinner, as he has dropped 4 straight. I think it's a bad matchup for him and a bad spot. Yes, there was a day off, but Joker is also 38 years old, and he's off of a 3+ hour marathon against Zverev, where there were a bunch of long rallies, especially in that 4th set. I think Sinner's in a good spot. He coasted against Bublik. He had the early match as well, and now he gets to face off against a 38-year-old off a marathon. I think Sinner, worst case scenario, drops a set. I don't see him dropping more than one. But give me Sinner in 3 or 4. Give me Alcaraz in 3 or 4, and that's going to pay out at plus 107 as my dog for that parlay. So once again, the plays for the show, the lock's going to be on the Alcaraz Musetti under half a tie break at minus 145. For the dog, I'm going to go with Alcaraz minus 1.5 sets, parlayed with Sinner minus 1.5 sets. That pays out at plus 107. We're back once again tomorrow to break down the women's final between Goff and Sabalenka. Till next time, find me on Twitter, Reichel Radio, and good luck to all of you and all of